Woo! Welcome everybody to the Warrior of Life podcast. Yeah, yeah. Welcome to the Warrior podcast. Hey, you know this is gonna be an amazing day. Welcome to the Warrior podcast. Hey, this is going to be an amazing day. Gonna bring the light, gonna say some things. Might start to feel just different, hey. Cause we cut through the bullshit in that way. And we talk about just healthy habits here in this day, yeah. So let us go, yeah. It's time to flow, yeah. Oh, thank you, let's go. All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming to another episode of the Warrior Life podcast. On today's episode, we are going to be discussing who is White Wolf. Yeah. That is I. I am White Wolf, of course. So let's go into it. Like, who is this guy? Who is White Wolf? This guy trying to put together this organization that saves the world, right? Well, okay. Well, you see, back in the early times, in the early days of White Wolf, he was a very scared child, very terrified, fearful of everything. It was very humiliating. You see, White Wolf was really what was called an empath, and he could pick up the energy. And when White Wolf was a child, the energy within the environment was very icy and cold. There was lots of icy and cold energy everywhere. Games to have fun and to really get away from some of the realities of life. Now, back in White Wolf's day, video games were hot. Okay, it was really story mode was pimping and adventures. Oh, the games I played. Oh, the stories, the adventures, classics like Zelda, Majora's Mask, one of my personal favorites. But it was interesting seeing the storytelling abilities, that we come up with as humans, and it just put such a fiery passion in my heart at times. And then I got into anime, and it was just it was just a way of me to really find, because to find something that gave me a burning passion and desire. I would say those types of entertainment back then, the story was that of heroes, it was that of legends, it was that of men doing great things to save the kingdom and to save the villagers, you know what I'm saying? Or the anime character to always surpass his limits to fight the next bad guy. Because there's always a tougher bad guy. Come on. Dragon Ball Z has showed us this many times. My man Goku has literally died and come back to life to keep fighting over and over and over. At least half of the characters die and come back to life. Okay, it's very crazy. But anyways, got sidetracked. We talk about some of why Wolf died in some of these things, and it creates such a burning desire. But I can't lie, I was very seclusive. As a child, I was definitely a very quiet child. A very quiet child indeed. And I was definitely the type of child that was like, I lived a very unhealthy lifestyle. Ramen was my best friend. I escaped through video games to really kind of escape some of the problems I had at the time. I was really an overweight child. I felt so self-conscious about my weight at that time. It was crazy how I felt about myself. I can look back and just remember the how I talked to myself at that time. And it's just I would say when I started going to school 1 through 5 were pretty nice years. I was definitely, I loved my elementary school, and the school system at that time seemed very nice and friendly, and they were really about having fun. It was I remember those years being very pleasant for myself. At home, I always kind of felt like the glue. When you're the glue and you gotta hold down the fort, because you can feel the energy, and when the energy's icy. Because my family was really into a lot of fighting, lots of fighting, all the time fighting, continuous fighting. So when you're the glue and you kind of do your best to stop the fighting continuous as a small child, it's very interesting how an anime type of world, and it provided me a type of, for me, that fantasy imagination, the imaginative world, that everybody has such a creative side, and creativity is important for everybody. But it was a way for me to tap into different types of feelings of adventure and excitement, and really used that for a lot of escaping. I went outside as a kid. I made friends with some neighborhood kids, but I wasn't too big of being outside. I was mostly exclusive in my room. And so started talking about things kind of changed up around middle school. Middle school, get older. That's when I was really that's when I found anime. I would say at younger ages, it was definitely like cartoons and just video games. Cartoons and video games was the life. Middle school, started getting a little bit more into anime, cartoons, video games. Started getting bullied more at school. That's when you start seeing the bullying years. My weight started going up. I was really living an unhealthy lifestyle, and still just doing the same thing, to trying to escape. My thing is, I had a lot of focus as a child. I would say that I was very focused. But I spent a lot of time playing video games and watching anime and cartoons. Anime, cartoons, video games. And so there was also a hobby I had, and that was music. Because I tried doing sports, and sports was just not me. Because at the time I was very overweight, and I just felt so subconscious about myself. And I would just feel some of the, I just remember looking back at it and just knowing how I felt at the time, and how I was so uncoordinated. But I had fallen in love with music and had started learning how to play the saxophone in those middle school years. And so by the time I had finally reached high school, I was like full-blown anime nerd, like saxophone, band geek, like concert, jazz, marching, like total conspiracy theory kid, totally like, what is going on? Why are we having to deal with it? That was totally me as a child. And so there was a couple big influences that really started changing my life around. Because when I was in freshman year, I was so unhappy with myself, with my life, with just who I was. Just one of the most influential figures that I met first in my high school years was this man. I'm gonna call him Coach S, and he was incredible. He had taught me. He was the weights and conditioning coach, and he had taught. He was teaching the children, all of us, the basics of lifting weights and getting stronger. And that was incredible, because that was one of the moments that had changed my life completely. I was so sick and tired of being bullied. It was like having somebody teach you how to get stronger was just so incredible as a child. And another influence was, in my home life, was because we all my family had lived an unhealthy lifestyle too, but there was some things that now that I was getting older, things had started to change. They were starting to incentivize me to lose weight, and it was like, oh, because it was serious. I was very large. I was like 300 pounds at my largest, and it was like interesting how you see your health at that point for me at that time. And there's support helped me, the incentives, the emotional support, and they too were trying to lose weight because all of us were quite large, and it was like, we can't go down a route, we can't go down like this. And so, with the help of incentive, they give me a couple dollars here and there for every pound I would lose. And I started getting with different friends. I had run into a whole new friend at that time too, and I'm calling my homie Edie. And this kid at that time, we were on the same frequency. Like, we were like, whoa, totally into anime. We were all playing video games, and these are the years we started getting into alcohol and smoking a bunch of weed and going on adventures, and just because we had no car at the time, and we really have we had walk everywhere. And back then, they have the internet as much. Things weren't as high speed as they are today. And so it was just so much fun, so much adventuring, so much journeys through all that. With the help of friendship and support from my parents, from influential figures at school, it gave me the strength to lose weight and to fall in love with working out into a whole new world of how my life was. I had broken free. I wasn't trapped inside of my house, in my room, alone anymore. I had really broken free, it felt like, into a whole new world of adventure with friends. And just wow. Just about personal growth and just losing weight, smoking weed, going on adventures, and just growing, looking at the realities of life, watching documentaries, having fun, whole mixed match of things. Watching now, there's so much things you gotta watch out for though too. Because when you're a teenager, I was a little wild teenager. I was out late, hitting the streets with the homies, yeah. And you go through lessons. This is the time period where you go through different lessons. And you start making some karmic lessons for yourself. And sometimes, yeah. Anyways, from freshman year to senior year, lots of self-development. Did things I wasn't proud of. Did things that you have to grow from. And one of the things I'll say, having to watch out for influencing and choosing your path. As a young man, I feel like the years, freshman year to senior year, are so essential for young men. It's almost like really choosing your path that you're going to go on. And it's hard when you see how influential some of these things like gangbanging are. Things like toxic habits, drugs, things like how much they're in the faces. They're in our faces at that time very heavily. And you really have to have discernment at those ages of, if I go down this route, I know what it's going to cause me. Because you see it. And we see it in movies, and we see it everywhere. And so, one of the things that was a real benefit to me was I was from a military town. And so I seen lots of soldiers. And at that time period, it was a lot of the deployments to Afghanistan and Iraq, and seeing how the soldiers have fought for so long, men, women, together, doing what it takes on the front lines for us here at home. They put fire. I had had given me figures that I felt like I wanted to emulate. And so I was lucky enough to decide a path that sent me into the military right after high school. And so at the age of 18, I had went to the recruiter and signed up, and that's a whole nother story for another time. Anyways, after my 18th birthday in September, I had packed up and got shipped off to the military, to the Army. I had signed up for 11 Bravo Infantry. And that was the start of a whole new life once again.